This is Homebrew Fanatics TV, a brand new channel all around homebrewing. So if you're a homebrewer wanting to take your brewing to the next level, this channel is definitely going to be for you, so make sure you subscribe. So today's video, we're going to talk about recipe development. So specifically, we're going to be talking about Red IPA recipe development. It's probably one of the most common topics I get asked about is recipe development. So I decided I wanted to do a show that was going to essentially allow you to look over my shoulder and see how I go about recipe development. So hopefully you'll pick up a few little tips along the way, a few little techniques, especially if you're not aware of the styles that we're going to be doing. You'll definitely get a few tips and techniques on how to brew and recipe develop for those sort of styles. So like I said, first one off the bat today is Red IPA. So as you can see here, I am using Brewfather. So Brewfather is my recipe development software of choice. I've been using that for about 18 months, which has been really good. I like it just because I can quickly do recipes really quickly, but you can get pretty complex with it too if you want to get deep into the recipe development software side of things. But yeah, I just like doing the quick little recipes on here, and that allows you to do that. So we'll get straight into it with Red IPA. So recipe name, Red IPA. What I'll also do is I'll tag this, tag it Fanatics TV, because what I'll do is I'll share the recipe link at the description, so then you've got the recipe to take away. So all these videos that I do, if you're familiar with the Homebrew Fanatics stuff, I always try and give as much value as I can, try and have people take a lot of stuff away. So that's what I'll do with this channel as well, is that at the end of the video you're going to have some type of thing that you can take away, whether it's a guide or something like that you can keep and learn from. So you can continually refer back to. So that's what I'll do with this styles of video with the recipe development. I'll always put the links and stuff down there so you can pull up the recipe whenever you need to, put it into your brewing software and stuff like that. So yeah, jump down into the description if you want to copy across this recipe to your own recipe software. So here we go, Red IPA Fanatics TV. Basic. I won't go deep into equipment profile stuff, just the basics here. You can see batch volume 23 liters, the brew house efficiency 70%. You want to keep that at about 70% you don't want to keep it like that, whatever your brew house efficiency is, but for the sake of these videos I'll be at 70% just because that's a good average to use. But depending on your equipment profile, you might be left or right of that, so just adjust that as need be. So start up here, go into the style Red IPA. I'll click into it actually because it's pretty common craft beer style, but some people just getting into craft beer might not be too aware of the style. So we can quickly go over the description here so you know sort of a quick expectation of what the style is. So what do we got here? So hoppy, bitter, and moderately strong like an American IPA, but with some caramel, toffee, and dark fruit malt character. Retaining the dryish finish and lean body that makes an IPA so drinkable. So a Red IPA is a little more flavorful and maltier than an American IPA without being too sweet or heavy. Just excuse me while I drink. It's only water. Don't worry. So the two main things, if we're going back to this, what you want to be aware of is the sweet or heavy. So more flavorful and malty than American IPA without being too sweet or heavy. So that's a really key point when you're doing Red IPA recipes. You don't want to make them too cloying and sweet, otherwise they just become a sticky mess that you can't drink, not drinkable, and they should be really drinkable. If you look up here, retaining the dry finish and lean body that makes an American IPA so drinkable. So although it has some malt flavor and things in there, it should still really be really drinkable and finish quite dry, so it's not too cloying. So keep that in mind. when you're doing your Red IPA recipes. You'll see as I go along a few little tricks that I do to keep that in check. So we'll select that as our style. Taking a little bit. Why is that not clicking? There we go, Red IPA. So you can see the it's reflective now. The statistics up here. So we'll keep a broad eye on them as we go through to make sure we're sort of in check with what those numbers are. So first thing we'll do, we'll go into the fermentables. So I'm gonna, when I do this recipe, I haven't got a recipe off the top of my head doing this, so this is all off as we go, as I'm thinking. So I just wanted to really go into it blind, so you could really see the recipe development process and how I go about my thinking to think it all through. So I think I'm gonna probably want to create Red IPA with a little bit more balance, so a little bit of focus on balanced focus on a little bit of that malt and hops, not one dominating the other. So I do want a little bit of malt backbone in there. So what I'll do is Maris. Maris Otter is one of my go-tos when I'm trying to get a bit of malt backbone in there. So we'll select Maris Otter, and we'll put say 6 kilos. 6 kilos in there. Save. And you'll see the numbers up there have gone. We're still in check of our numbers of, I like to make them about in that 7% range. So we're within that at the moment. We'll go back into the fermentables. So far we've got 6 kilos of Maris Otter in there. I like to use Munich a lot when I'm trying to get a little bit of malt backbone into the beers. So we'll use Munich in this case too. Say beds there. Don't be too specific about the producers that you use. I've selected beds there just because it was right in front of me, but whatever you've got access to at your local homebrew store is completely fine to use. So in this case we've selected beds Munich malt. How much do I want to put in there? I want to probably put say 15-20% in there. So we'll take a stab at that and go 1.2 kilos in there, see where that takes us. So we're at 83% of Maris and the 16 to 17% of the Munich, which is sort of where we want to be, but I sort of don't want to push too much past that 7% range. So we're already up there, as you can see. So what I might do is dial this Maris back 5.5. So 5.5 of Maris Otter and 1.2 kilograms of Munich malt. The other thing I should have mentioned at the start is that I'm using metric units. You might use imperial. Sorry if this is confusing. Obviously I'm living in Australia and I use metric. So but as I said, the description is going to be, the link's going to be down in the description, and you can convert that. Main things you want to sort of keep an eye on, which is handy here, is just the percentages to give you a rough idea about the amounts of each malt that you're going to be putting into your recipe, your Red IPA recipe. So as you can see here, 82% of Maris so far and about 18% of Munich. So that's a good starting point for our base malts. We'll move on to the specialties now. If you think back to the description that they said, that we said at the start of this video about adding a little bit of that caramel toffee, that dried fruit sort of character. So that's where these specialty malts are going to come into it. So what we're going to do is get some crystal malts in there, but we want to add a sort of broad range of crystal malt. So a trick that I like using if I'm trying to produce a beer that's going to have some of that crystal malt sort of flavor in there, especially the darker style beers, is to broaden out that your selection of crystal malts. So essentially having crystal malts that are light in character, but also the darker crystal malts. So when you're talking about lighter crystal malts, you're talking about getting that sort of basic sort of sweet caramel sort of character in there. But when you're going into that sort of darker range, that's when you're moving into that more toffee sort of dark fruit sort of character. So for this particular recipe, I want to get a sort of a bit of a blend in there. So it's got a complex sort of malt character from some sweet caramel flavors in there, but then also up into that sort of dried fruit, dark toffee sort of flavors. So that's what we'll do when we'll do this. Excuse me, taking drinks of water all the time. So what we'll do is Carahell. So I like using Carahell. It's probably one of my choices when I go for light crystal malt. So I have pretty good access to it at the local homebrew shop that I work at. So I use it a lot and it's had good results. So we'll use it in this case for our light crystal. We're going to aim for about 2%, I reckon. So if we go 0.2 kilograms, put that in there. So we're at 2.9% there. So about where we want, because we're going to add a bit more crystal in there. Now we're going to go for some darker crystal. So we put that light crystal in there, that Carahell. Now we're going to go for some darker crystal to get a bit more of that sort of dark toffee, stewed fruit, dried fruit type character. So what will we use? We will use a good one I like using is Cara Aroma. Where are we? Cara Aroma is a good one. I like using that a lot. It really gives that sort of dried fruit character in there. So again, we'll probably use 0.2 kilograms of that as well. So put that in there. You can see at 2.8 and 2.8. So just over 5%, which isn't too bad. You don't want to be pushing past. Definitely, the rule of thumb I always used to be taught is that anything you don't want to go above 10%. But even that's probably too high these days. You're probably more going to be wanting to go down towards that total crystal malt bill of about 6%. So if you remember back to the description that we were talking about before, you don't want it to be too sweet and heavy and cloying. So when you add too much crystal, that's when it's going to become sweet and cloying. You do want that sweet sort of malt character in there, but you don't want that residual sticky sweetness left over that makes it undrinkable. You want it to finish a little bit drier, so it's nice and sessionable and you can keep drinking more. That's what that IPA sort of style is known for. So I think that's pretty good. The 2.8% of each of those. Other specialty malts we want to get in there. Probably I'm happy with that for the time being. One thing we want to make note of is I like it a little bit darker. So it's probably a bit light at the moment. 24 EBC. We want to sort of push that more up into that 30 sort of range up there. So what we can do is another little trick. Because the most obvious thing people would do from this stage, they want to get more color in there. They'd add more crystal malts. But that's what's going to really throw this beer out of balance and throw that red IPA style out of balance. So a little trick that I will show you that I like using a lot is seems counterintuitive to, not counterintuitive, but like not off. It seems off style. Roasted barley. Now this using roasted barley isn't to get the roasted sort of flavor in there. It's purely just to get that color up. So to be able to get that color up without getting too much of that roasted character in there is just using small amounts of it. You don't need a lot of it. So in this case, I am going to use 0.05. So essentially 50 grams of that. Got this. There we go. It's away from my face now. It's better. So we got 50 grams of that. So it's not a lot. So what's that? 0.7%. So you can see it's not a lot. But if you move up to here, you can see we've gone from 22 EBC all the way up to almost 32 now. So that's really got that color up there where into the scale that I like. So that's good. So as you can see, pretty simple, not too complex malt bill that we've got going for the Red IPA. It's up around that 7% where I liked it. The original gravity was 1.068. The final gravity is relatively high, but we'll fix that up later. I'll show you how we'll do that. To get that down a bit. But yeah, I'm happy where that that malt bill is at the moment. It's not too complex. Nice and simple. When you do recipe development, try not to throw too much malts in there. Every malt, I always say, you should have a specific reason for why it's in there. So if we go through quickly, you've got the Maris in there to give a bit of that biscuity, nutty malt backbone. The Munich's in there to really emphasize that malt backbone and drive that a little bit more forward, malt forward. Then you got the two crystals here, so a lighter crystal to get some caramel flavor in there, some light caramel flavor. And then you got the darker, the Carahel there, lighter crystal, the Cararoma, the darker one is going to get a little bit more of that sort of dark toffee, dried fruit character in there. That's what's going to create that complexity in your Red IPA with that malt bill. And then you go down to that roasted barley, so that's there to give that color. But also what it's going to do, which I didn't mention before, it's going to create that little bit of dryness, that really subtle dry finish. That's going to make this Red IPA nice and drinkable. So yeah, I'm happy with that. That malt bill. So now we'll just move directly straight on to the hops. So we'll go for our bittering hop first. Get our IBUs up there a bit. What I'll use, I'll just use Columbus, I think. I like using Columbus a bit for just a general bittering addition here. So we'll go Columbus in there. We'll put it in for 60 minutes. Probably aiming for about in that 20 to 25 odd IBU roughly, I reckon. So if we put 15 grams in there, save that. Where does that take us? It takes us to 27, which is pretty good. So that's all we're going to do for the early additions. If you notice a lot of the Homebrew Fanatics recipes, they don't do a lot of in-between. We're not doing a lot of in-between sort of hop additions. Used to be pretty common to have like a 60-minute addition, then like a 30, and then a 15-minute and a 5-minute. But more and more now, craft breweries are just early addition, then all late after that, especially with hop-forward beers and hoppy styles like Red IPAs. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to add the actual rest into the whirlpool. So take it away from the boil, put it into this aroma hop stand. Do that for 20 minutes, and we'll do the temperature to 80 degrees. So hop stand / whirlpool edition, 80 degrees. So what we'll do is our hop varieties. So I want to get a little bit of balance between sort of citrus and tropical, I think. So the ones I want to do, I reckon, will be Chinook. We'll try Chinook in there. Get Chinook in there. So amount. We'll go for grams wise, I'll go for 40 grams. I'll add that in there. So Chinook, sort of adding a little bit of that citrus sort of pine sort of flavor in there. We'll go Centennial as well. Some sort of classic C's there, Centennial. I'll do the same, so 40 grams. 20 minutes. Boil. Go aroma hop stand, 20 minutes at 80 degrees again. There we go, we'll save that. So then we can see we're pushing up into that 40 range, 40 IBUs, so add some more hops in there. This is when I'm going to get a little bit of that. So we've got that sort of citrusy pine sort of with the Centennial and the Chinook, but now we want to get some tropical. So another classic C, Citra. So I'm going to chuck some Citra in there. Again, we'll go 40. We'll see where that's at. Similar to the malt, sort of, I just roughly get it in there when I'm doing my recipe development. Don't think about it too much, and then I'll fine tune it after that, according to sort of what the numbers are saying and things. So put that into the aroma hop stand. 80 degrees, save. Let's push this up in the 40. I probably want a little bit more. A bit more IBUs in there. So I might actually, each of these, take them up to 50 grams. So 50. Where are we? 50. And 50. See where that gets us. So up in that 45 sort of range. Which I probably want it more in that 50 sort of IBU. So I think on easy, don't want to go too overboard at the end, that whirlpool. So I might just go 20 grams at 60 minutes, see where that gets us, that's better. So we're up to that 54 IBUs there. So happy with that as the boil additions, as you can see. Now we want to go into the hops for the dry hopping edition. So probably I'm going to keep it the same combination here: Centennial, Chinook, Citra. We'll go add. So Centennial. And we're going to keep it. I want probably about 7 to 8 grams per litre. So if we go 60 of each, I reckon. So 60 grams Centennial dry. We'll do right there 3 days. So you'll notice I do a lot of keep the hops dry hopping down to 3 days. 3 days contact time maximum. It's sort of a sweet spot that I've liked. But you can push a little bit further if you want. But more and more, you'll see craft breweries reducing their contact time to really try and capture that really fresh dry hop character in their beers. So reducing that contact time is going to help that. So we'll do that. Where are we? So you got the Centennial in there, 60 grams, 3 days dry hop. We'll add more of that. More of the Chinook, sorry. So Chinooks, and I'll keep it the same. So 60 dry hop, 3 days. So save. We'll go add again. Now we'll get the Citra in there. So Citra, 60 grams. Dry hop, 3 days. So let's see where they're at there. So you can see dry hop total down here. We've got 7.8 grams per litre. So I'm trying to get this out of the way of the screen so you can see my face. 7.8 grams per litre, which is good. I like that. I like the combination Centennial, Chinook, Citra. A little bit of that blend of citrusy pine, tropical flavour. So if we think about the whole recipe in general now, we're probably theme probably focusing on a bit of balance. So not too, so a bit of a balance between malt and hops, but also with the specific hops. So you got a bit of a balance between that citrus and tropical hop profile. So best of sort of both worlds there. So not sort of too dominant one way. So that's I think I'm happy with that in terms of hops and malt. We'll move on down now to the mashing profile. So at the moment it's 65 degrees for 60 minutes. So yeah, I like that. It's already set like that. So 65 degrees, 60 minutes. Your first initial thoughts when you're doing like red IPAs and trying to get a bit of that malt sweetness. Some people go too high with their mashing to try and retain a bit of that sweetness, but if you think about that description at the start, we're talking about trying to keep it nice and really easy to drink, sessionable, dry finish. So there's going to be enough sort of malt profile in there from our grain bill. You don't need to sort of add more residual sweetness by trying to raise that mash temperature too much higher than that. So 65 degrees Celsius there. We'll keep that at that. We can add in another like step here if we need be. Like a mash out type step. So here we go. We'll go to 70. So we'll go 78 time. So 10 minutes. So we'll keep that like that, I think. Oh, that's not going in there. Oh, I'll fix that up when I put the actual recipe up. I'll fix that up. So at the moment we got 65 degrees mashing, 60 minutes. So that's all good. What we'll do now is we'll go to the yeast. And we'll add in some yeast. So some people overthink the yeast a little bit too much. You can keep it quite simple, and some dry US-05 is always going to be good for this sort of style. But any American ale sort of yeast is going to do the trick. Not looking for yeast character or any ester profile. Nice and clean and dry, this sort of style. So just for the sake of this recipe, we'll do Safale US-05. It says 1 packet. We'll go 2 packets. Attenuation is 81%, which is should finish off that, get that final gravity down a little bit. And yeah, you want to be, if you're using dry yeast, so dry yeast packets, when you're pushing up that gravity a little bit higher, best to use 2 packets than 1 packet. We can go into some yeast, sort of more specific videos around that. We'll keep that basic at the moment. Added in that yeast there, so US-05, 2 packets. We swing back up to final gravity now. You can see that final gravity, we're down to 1.013, which is good. So ABV is up to 7.2%, original gravity 1.068, final gravity 1.013. The colour is 31, close to 32 there, which is good. The IBU's smack bang in the middle, sort of there, 54. And then the bittering to gravity ratio there, don't need to go into that and go too specific about that with this. But I think that's sort of where I like it. We'll get an overview here. If I click up here, we'll get a better view of it. So 70% brew house efficiency there. It's going to be a 23 litre batch. These are specifics for those, for the water, the mash in water and things like that. But that will be specific for whatever your equipment profile for, so don't pay too much attention to that. More looking here at these vital statistics. Original gravity 1.068, which is good. Final gravity 1.013, 54 IBUs. The color is 31.5. Mashing temperature is 65 for 60 minutes. I'll add that other little step into the actual recipe when I share this, so keep an eye out for that. Should be updated now in the description, reflective of that. But going down to the malt bill here, you've got your 5.5 kilograms of Marisota, so 76% or 77% in total. 1.2 kilograms or 16.8 of Munich, 16.8%. We've got 200 grams of the Cara Aroma, 200 grams of Cara Hell, 50 grams of roasted barley. So that's our malt bill. We go into the hops, so total hops 350 grams in total. So we've got 20 grams at 60 minutes of Columbus. There are no steps in between that. Then we go down to the hop stand or the Whirlpool edition here. We've got 50 grams each of Centennial, Chinook and Citra. And that's it for the boil editions. And then we go into our dry hopping. So same Centennial, Chinook and Citra. You're looking at 60 grams each of those. I think that worked out to close to 8 grams per litre for dry hopping. And then yeast, we've kept it nice and simple. USO 5, 2 packets. Just trying to get a neutral yeast profile there. Actually, I didn't change this, which I'll go back in the actual recipe and change that. It'll be reflective in the recipe that I share. But fermentation profile, probably wanting to keep that down a little bit lower to not keep it nice and clean and neutral at about 18 degrees Celsius. So I'll change that. But I think I like that. Nice little simple Red IPA. So you can see it's not too complex. There's not a lot of malts going on there. Just specific malts for their needs in the recipe. Nothing unnecessary in there. A couple of crystal malts, that roasted barley to get that colour up, and then a bit of malt backbone with that Maris and Munich. And then a nice balance of that citrusy, pine, tropical malt profile to get a balanced sort of hop profile in there. And then we keep it neutral with the yeast, USO 5. But there we go. Red IPA recipe. So look into the description. You'll see the recipe in there. Hopefully you'll be able to get that into your Brewfather accounts or your recipe accounts. Otherwise you should be able to just print it out once you click into there, save it onto your computer, save it onto your phone, and then away we go. So there we go. That's the first video. Like I said, I'm going to try and put a video out at least once a week, and the videos are going to be trying to give you as much value, take away as much as you can. But like I said, I'm always here to answer questions. So in the comments, if you've got any specifics around this recipe that you want to clear up, just ask away in the comments. I'll be in there replying to everyone. But yeah, thanks for watching the very first episode, very first video in the Homebrew Fanatics TV. Bit of trial and error. We'll try a few different things here and there, see what you guys want to see most of. But at the end of the day, it's just about bringing you guys a lot of value, so you can really bring your homebrewing up to the next level, learn a few more techniques, and hopefully I'm there to support you all the way. But other than that, I'll see you in the next video.